Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in to my YouTube channel, DebtBytes. And today I want to discuss something that readers ask quite a bit of our site. People can submit questions here on YouTube and through the website, consumerrecoverynetwork.com. But and I deal with debt and credit issues specifically. The question is why or how long should I be waiting for a bank or a debt collector to update my credit report that I resolved the account with them? And so a lot of times people are very impatient to try and bounce back with their credit because, it didn't get bad overnight. It took a lot of time, but you can actually start to accomplish some major credit goals when you start resolving debts. And a lot of times it comes up as a mortgage. You want to try and get approved for a home loan. And the only way you're going to get that loan is by dealing with the collections or the unpaid debts that are on your credit report. So you get one done, and now you're waiting on the closing, and you deal with the loan officer, and they say, okay, great, we just need this to update on your credit report. Here's a couple things that you can expect, okay? The timeline when you resolve a debt, let's say I go negotiate a debt for somebody, and I get it in writing, I share that with them, and then they pay it. It's usually paid by the end of the month, and then that happens on the 30th, let's say. And then usually creditors, debt collectors, law firms that collect debt, they all tend to wait a couple of weeks after the payment clears before they're going to update or put it in the queue to update the credit reporting bureaus. And that's just, to make sure that the payment goes through okay, there's no chargebacks or any, weirdness. And so what happens is, let's say you're dealing with a debt buyer, and that debt buyer only pushes information out to the credit bureaus once a month, right? Even banks, you'd think they're dealing with all those accounts, hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of credit card accounts. And they also only push information out to the bureaus. It's not going out every morning, in other words, maybe twice a month, sometimes even creditors once a month, banks. So assume for a moment you pay your settlement on the 30th of the month, and then by the middle of the next month, you get put into the queue to update as a furnisher of information. Anybody that sends information to Equifax, TransUnion, Experian, they're called a furnisher. And they have a minimum requirement to furnish up-to-date, accurate, complete information. And so you just settled the debt with them. It's been a couple of weeks. You're in their queue, but that's going to go, maybe they do it the first week of every month, right? So now we're already in the middle of the following month when you settled, but your information isn't going to be pushed out until the beginning of the following month. So it feels a lot like a month and, sometimes two, really, before the update happens. Well, that's, standard and expected. If you're in a hurry for something, it's a problem because if you're just doing this because your financial situation is improved and you're bouncing back, you're probably not overly concerned with that updating to your credit 6 weeks later. But if you're trying to get a home loan through, here's some things you can do. So a mortgage broker they can do something called rapid rescore. And so if you're in a position and you're working with a broker to provide to them the actual settlement agreement that I talked about, we get people when we do settlements, and then proof from your bank account, just some screenshots that the payment was taken, the same amount that's on that letter, then your broker can usually get some things done with that, do a rapid rescore, maybe even push your loan through, but certainly get some of the preliminary paperwork and things like that done based on that information. You still may not be able to close until your credit score updates or your credit report updates in some instances. Now, on top of that, there's a very realistic or much more delayed outcome sometimes if you're dealing with something that was in the court record. So if you got sued, and maybe it's not on your credit anymore because judgments tend not to be, but there's a judgment in the public record in the courts, and the title company is not going to, you're not going to be able to get your loan through until the courts are updated. That's different. And so each time you have to settle a judgment and get a satisfaction of judgment filed, that can actually be delayed sometimes a little bit longer than the outline I just gave. Not much longer, but it is a real thing and it is a real delay. So if you're watching this video and you're trying to improve your credit for a very specific near-term goal, then it's good to be be informed, start those things, put those things in motion before some closing deadline, and rather than have these guys come back to you and say, look, we found this, we're not going to be able to get your loan through, and your heart sinks a little bit because you're not going to be able to reach that goal, or at least initially you feel like you can't. If you need help with something like this, we do offer it. on the toll-free number on the screen. If you want to talk to me, you can press 2. And then also there's a link below in the description of this video that will allow you to schedule a call with me, see my availability, and pick a time that works for you. I'll talk to you then. See you on the next video.